No worries. Yeah. You good?
Right. Okay. So hello everyone, or not everyone, just Tyrus and you, I guess. So this is Tyrus. Uh,
Nice to meet
so
you.
and this is James Tyrus. Okay. So James is a remote pilot for downtown Skyports, which are currently running trial flights for drone deliveries. And I stopped by just last weekend. That's how I met James. Really cool guy. Really cool team. They're so nice, so welcoming. And yeah, they showed me around. Um, and got a look at those drones. So before, uh, actually no, let's just get right to the questions. Okay.
Sure.
So, I think I sent you the doc, but I'll just read them off real quick. So the first
Yeah.
one, just like, can you tell us about like the background and history about the Skyports drone service?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So Skyports has been a drone service provider for going on 7 years now, I believe. And excuse me, I have something stuck in my throat. Yeah. So about 7 years. Sorry, let me grab a drink real quick. I don't know why. I just got something stuck in my throat. Sorry, fellas.
Oh, good.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. So yeah, has been around for about 7 years. They're a UK based operation, so they're in London and also have a test facility at Westcott in England. We just recently got the approvals to fly in the New York airspace. So that's what we're doing here now, and where I kind of come into play here is where we are setting up at the Skyports downtown heliport in downtown Manhattan. That's kind of the sister company to the drone service side of Skyports. They're also an infrastructure company as well, where they're setting up these vertiports kind of all over the globe. They have one in London, they have the one here in New York, and they also have some in Singapore and also in Dubai, where they just opened that up. And essentially, where all of their facilities are being brought up, they're also looking into services they can provide with UAVs. That's not to say they're also doing other work across the world as well, which infrastructure inspections, construction inspections. We're doing drone deliveries. We're doing those here in New York, but also in the UK and Scotland as well. And they're also doing deliveries kind of all over the place. We have multiple uh, for that. So that's kind of the background of Skyports. I'm relatively new to Skyports. I joined up in March, so still very fresh from that. But yeah, that's the company and what they're doing. So
Okay, cool. So for the second one, what would you say would be like the future trajectory of your development in like NYC? Like what would be like future plans, goals?
absolutely. So we are currently in a proof of concept right now in New York. So we are doing deliveries, but we're doing one very simulated cargo. So it's just water bottles and blank documents as a proof of concept at the beginning here. We have several stakeholders, which includes the Port Authority, EDC, which is a shipping company, as well as a nonprofit medical team hospital that's also involved. Those customers, are investors in that, are going to soon be providing us with actual packages. Again, it's going to start off slow with just kind of actual documents, pay stubs, things like that. Where then eventually, once we get the approvals through the FAA and when the NYPD, we'll be moving into medical supplies, so bandages, gauze, things like that. And then ultimately, to get to your question, is we want to be doing medical deliveries. We want to be delivering that middle mile between hospital to hospital or test facility to hospital, test samples, blood samples, things like that. And then again, ultimately, we're hoping this will be the main form of fast, safe transportation for medical supplies, such as we could do organs or like I said, test samples that are very high priority, and then we can get that across the river significantly faster with the aircraft than if you had to drive it with an ambulance or something like that.
Oh, so I have a question.
Yeah,
So as you said, you're talking a lot about like medical supplies. So you're saying like the main focus of you guys is like trying to get to that medical transportation for like medical supplies and stuff. Is that like the only thing you guys are hoping for? Are you hoping for like more heavy packages or like Were you say consumer pocket packages rather than like hospital packages, or are you just going purely medical?
Yep. So no. So at the end of the day, we are a company and a service provider. So if we find the customers that are able to cover the service, then we would be delivering realistically any piece of cargo we can. Again, Skyports, we're more focused on kind of that middle mile delivery. We're not going from warehouse to customer's front door. We're kind of minimizing how much time and distance is being traveled via vehicle, like a van or something like that. But the main driver for this project and the main driver for what Skyports is looking to do is medical deliveries. Like I said, that
Ah,
doesn't rule out everything, but medical deliveries are our true driving force because ultimately, at the end of this project, which is in a year, we're hoping we can pick this operation up and move it anywhere in the country and have the foundation and the experience of operating in the most complex airspace, quite honestly, in the world, arguably, out of the most busiest heliport in the world, which that one's a fact, and be able to say, hey, we did it here in New York, we can do it anywhere across the country, and then be doing those medical deliveries wherever they may be.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so we have another question. I'm gonna combine some because this is like you're all really similar. So, what was like the biggest logistical and technical challenges with your operation being set up in your city?
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones is location, right? So we had to get a solid base of operation, which that's also why I think Skyports was able to have a leg up in winning this contract through the Port Authority because we had the downtown heliport already. The biggest one that we're still experiencing and still working through is the approvals. Working with the FAA, working with the Port Authority, working with the NYPD. This is something that's not been done before. So many of these organizations do not have the processes in place to just hand you approval when you ask for it. It's usually a lot of back and forth. There's so many people that are trying to meet in the middle here, and then it just takes one of them to be hesitant or to back out of it, where we then have to go back to the drawing board, make sure we're addressing all of the safety concerns, the logistical concerns with them, and make sure we're all meeting at the same point at the same time. So we're still finding that difficult because it is such a new operation and a new project that we're still working with FAA and we're just always pushing the envelope. Once we get one approval, we're moving on to the next one, trying to increase what we are our capabilities for the operation is.
Okay,
So yeah, the approvals I would say is probably the big one for sure.
cool. And then we have a question from Luke, who is not in attendance,
Sure.
sadly.
No worries.
So he asked, um, how does a cloud-based autonomous control system you use work?
Yeah, so the benefit of the cloud-based system is to eventually go beyond visual line of sight. The Speedbird, which is the DLV2, is what we're flying as a cloud-based system. We're using it currently in the UK, where pilots in London are flying drones that are doing mail deliveries in northern Scotland. If you were doing that just over, a radio frequency or an antenna, you'd have to have some form of line of sight or a lot of equipment to keep you within that line of sight. What's nice about the DLV2 is that it's using cellular data. So it's going essentially from the drone to a server, and then I'm connected to that server with my flight planning, and then that just gives us the flexibility of going beyond line of sight. Here in the US, we're not doing it currently, but we are working on the approvals currently to go that distance, to go beyond line of sight. So that's what we're working on now, which involves a lot of back and forth with the FAA. So, but yeah, that's the benefit of the cloud-based system, is that you are able to just go that much further and not have a line of sight from your control station to your aircraft.
oh,
Right.
then I have a question about that actually.
I
You
just
said it's like cellular based, like so it has to have connectivity with cellular. Would it? What are the thoughts about like such as like what if it loses connectivity? Will it like be able to safely stay it still till it gains reconnectivity, or if it say or would it crash or would it land safely? What are the thought, what you want to know what that is?
Right.
Yeah, that's a great question. One, the DLV-2, it's just like any other aircraft that's flying. It's got significant amount of redundancies. So we're actually flying on two sets of SIM cards. One's from AT&T, one's from T-Mobile. If you lose one set, you've got the other set, or if you lose one provider, you have the other provider kind of giving you that redundant backup. But it's not a perfect world. There is an opportunity where we would lose everything. The aircraft itself has fail safes in place. Essentially, what we tell it to do if it does lose that connectivity or that data link loss is what it's called, which it can do multiple different things. One, the first thing it's going to do is an SRTL, which is a return, smart return to land. So it's going to go back to its point of origin. It's going to land, and then in theory, as you get closer to where you started, you should regain that connectivity. However, if you never regain it, it does autonomously land itself. That being said, there are safety measures in place for it. So if, let's say, in the scenario, it doesn't do its return to land and we don't have connect to it, it's got a certain time limit where then it does a fail-safe termination of flight where it deploys a parachute and it will land itself wherever it's at. So the aircraft is equipped with a parachute. Again, it goes through different levels of fail safes when that happens, and there's time limits set to all of those, which is why one reason we did go with the DLV-2. It's a tested, proven product in the UK and in Europe. The FAA also recognized that, which is why we were able to get it approved with our waiver. And then again, with those fail safes, it's essentially, things can still go wrong, but there's a lot of redundant things that it has to get through before that actually happens.
Right. That's so cool. I never expected there to be a parachute inside of that. I never heard of that.
Mhm.
Um, I actually want to add on to that, kind of similar question. In the case that you need to like take over manual control, right? Let's say
Mhm.
all your systems failed, or they didn't fail, but like you're about to like hit like a playground, right?
Sure.
Parachute falls. Is there a problem with the latency with like how much time like in milliseconds like there is between you inputting your input and then the aircraft responding? Is that an issue at all?
Currently, no. I'm sure there is a measured latency between me inputting a control and it actually doing it. But it's not within the realm of safety where, like, in fact, it's happened several times in our current project where I'll have to hold for vessels crossing the river, or I have to hold for radio or, excuse me, helicopter traffic coming in. So I can take manual control at any time. Same thing. We're landing on these barges, which are essentially just full of metal and rebar. So there is a lot of interference that comes off of them. So the GPS does have a tendency to drift. Which at that point I just take manual control and put it exactly where I need it to go. And when I say drift, I'm talking like a meter or two left or right, things like that. So then I can take manual control again, put it right over the center of the helipad that we're taking off from and landing it. In terms of latency, I haven't noticed a big like, oh, I put it in a control and then like 20 seconds later it's doing it. It's more so it's a pretty immediate response. So yeah, I haven't had an issue with it. So
Cool. Okay. One last question about this because this is really interesting to me.
yeah.
So in terms of redundancy, I think you talked to me about this about why it's a hexacopter where it can still fly with one motor out. Um,
Mhm.
what would happen if let's say two motors on the same side, like two adjacent motors failed? Would that like be a serious issue? Would it start to activate those redundant systems or?
Yeah, so well, if we lost two motors, it's a really bad day for us. So if we lose one, what happens and what we've been trained to go through the emergency procedures with is it's going to start spinning, yawing over its vertical axis. It's to account for that missing motor to hold its altitude. Depending on the environmental conditions, depending on our cargo weight, for example, we could have a potential loss of altitude on that as well. So that's something we monitor. And then again, in this emergency scenario, I can then proceed with what I need to do based on the scenario it's happening. So most likely we lose a motor, it will spin, but it will continue on its flight path, holding its altitude. If we lose two motors, that everything just becomes exaggerated. It would spin more, but it would most likely, it would without a doubt start losing altitude at that point. It would no longer be able to maintain its own weight, and so it would start to descend. Which at that point we could either land right where we're at, we could hit that parachute and then land it forcefully if need be. But yeah, so yeah, two motors would be a really unlucky day for us.
Interesting.
Okay.
I have a question actually.
Yeah.
Um, how well does it like face up to like weather conditions such as like high winds, crosswinds, such like that, or
Yeah.
updraft, stuff like that?
Yeah, so it's got its own limitations. We can go up into 29 knots in wind, so pretty good gust. But we have been winded out a handful of times already. We are still under Part 107, so we're still following VFR flight rules. So we have to stay 500 feet below clouds, 3 statute miles, things like that. It is waterproof up to 5 millimeters per hour in rain, so we can still operate in raining conditions, things like that. And then, yeah, I mean, it handles wet wind relatively well. I mean, we're landing next to idling helicopters constantly. We're landing, on the Brooklyn side. It kind of forms this tunnel, so we get a lot of wind shear. It's still handling that really well. Again, having the hexacopter and having the ability to have such a weight capacity to it that we're not even coming close to, it can really handle a good amount of wind. That being said, we still monitor all of the weather because we're not going to put it in anything it can't handle, essentially.
Cool. Actually, yeah, Tyrus, I want to clarify with this. Like with our models, we build a lot of stuff, and especially in the early days, actually, even like now, the planes we build, we go for ultralight because we don't want to get in trouble with the FAA with us, past 250 grams. So we actually
Sure,
did a project like completely focused on just building the lightest possible plane we could. We used like lightweight PLA, aero PLA from Bamboo, on my 3D printer over there, our 3D printer that we purchased with the GoFundMe, and we had like suffered this huge issue with wind shear because the plane, it had like the surface area of the wings was like quite large compared to the rest of the fuselage.
sure.
And we had this issue where whenever it would roll or just on takeoff, like every part of the plane would catch the wind, um, and it would roll uncontrollably and crash. So I think with the hexacopters, the DLV2, am I correct in saying like um the main reasons why it's so resistant to wind shear is mostly because of the weight and the self-stabilizing, the IMU and then the gyro controller inside of it? Is that mainly the reason?
Yeah, I think that's a safe assumption. I think it's also the power that it has. So it's
Oh,
got, like I said, it's got those six motors. So whatever wind it hits, up to 29 knots, it can handle. It can essentially overpower that wind. It is still important, like I said, to kind of monitor those wet wind conditions because one wind forecast can tell you one thing, but 100 feet up in the air, you could be experiencing something completely different with winds aloft. So you've got to be mindful of that. And as we are flying it, I'm looking at the telemetry. I'm looking at the view that the aircraft is giving, and if at any point it's struggling with what it's doing, then we can kind of make a judgment call from that. I will say it's like I said, it's got a lot of power to it, so it can really get through a lot of wind if it need be. But yeah, I haven't really witnessed anything that would make me believe otherwise.
In terms of like your final goal, you said it was medical stuff, right? Let's say you get to that final part. How big do you guys expect like your workforce to be? Like how many jobs you guys would expect to like have? Because you said how you were like monitoring the telemetry at all times. How many people you think you would need to do that to like have a fully functioning, fully running all the time, up to date system?
It really comes down to the need for it, right? So we have in Europe, we have the mail delivery where we have a essentially a remote control station where the pilot sits at down south in London, where they're flying all of the missions, right? So we could have a scenario where it's, we have one central pilot in New York that's handling all of the East Coast flights, things like that. We also have an operation in Singapore where we're flying 24/7. So we have a rotation of pilots coming in and coming out where they come in, they take off, they're doing monitor stations of a port, and then they come back, and then we've got the next guy coming in, start of shift kind of a thing. So it really comes down to the need. We have currently another pilot in Texas who's working on a construction site. So it's he's going to have several sites all across the country. We have this current one delivery operation we've got going on, but like I said, that's hopefully going to grow to the point where we could have multiple pilots coming in doing shifts, delivery shifts, potentially all over the country, but then we could also have different drones stationed throughout the country as well. And then, the hospital calls us up, says, hey, we need a delivery from point A to point B. Whoever's in that region or responsible for that region is the one that's getting online. We have our ground support personnel who are running through the checklist, making sure the aircraft are airworthy, loading the cargo. So it has the potential to be a fairly large workforce because you're talking about the pilot, you're talking about the maintenance personnel, you're talking about like the ground support personnel. So there's a lot of moving parts to it for sure. Right now it's just me and two other guys, and like I said, that pilot in Texas. But if we do our jobs right, hopefully there will be a lot more in the years to come. It's my
That's
plan.
great. I find that very interesting. And then my personal final question that I have, how do you feel that, say, Skyports would actually open up the possibility for other smaller drone users, such as like clubs, such as that, since you are running in New York City, which is a very, very hard place to get drones running, how do you feel like that might open up or broaden like the path for other people, like, or open up the airspace more? You feel like it would loosen it up eventually?
Absolutely.
'Cause-
Yeah, yeah. No, and honestly, it's a great point too, because so many people do want to be doing this. And unfortunately, if you don't kind of have the resources backing you, like a company like Amazon or Zipline or Wing or all these other juggernauts who are trying to get it done, a company like Skyports, which, still has a good amount of resources, but is significantly smaller than those other corporations, they're coming into these spaces, they're coming into New York. And like I said, we're working very closely with the FAA, with the NYPD, getting those processes kind of figured out. So now, hopefully, in like a year or two, if somebody does want to come into New York and set up a drone operation, they already have those processes in place from not just what Skyports has done, but what from other drone providers have done in the past. We'll be able to build off of as well. So I think it's only going to help things because somebody coming into New York, they get in touch with the FAA. The FAA goes, oh, well, we worked with Skyports. This is how we did it with them. We're going to set it up the same way. And now they have the opportunity to come in and continue to push that envelope. And I think anybody coming into this space, they'll learn new things. They'll discover new processes that they'll be able to push on to the FAA and push out to everybody else. So I think it's definitely, we're just building it up for everybody is my hope. So,
Love that. I love that.
All
yeah.
right, cool. Okay. Next question that okay. With regard to prototyping, what were the greatest challenges you faced in the procurement and manufacturing stage? And were any bespoke or custom components required outside of conventionally machined or additively manufactured parts?
That's a good question. So that might be before my time getting into Skyports. I
Yeah.
do know DLV2 or Speedbird is a close partner of ours. So we had the Westcott test facility that we have in England. They send a lot of their prototypes there to be tested with Skyports because again, we're kind of a tested, proven service provider for them. So they have done a lot of testing with us. They continue to do a lot of testing with us. Any kind of iterations or changes that they have to their aircraft, they're usually sending it our way first. We kind of find what's working, what's not working. They make the tweaks from there. And so yeah, in terms of this project, it's been pretty standard because we had to have an aircraft that was proven for the FAA. The main difference with what we had to do when they first got here was they were in a winch configuration. We used the DLV2 to lower supplies ship to shore. So we're flying from the shore and going to an anchored ship, winching something down. For what we're doing here in New York, we're using cargo boxes. So we had to it was change the configuration for that. And then in terms of that, it's pretty straightforward at that point. It's pretty cut and dry. But yeah, so I wouldn't say we had to really kind of reinvent the wheel at any point, but we're always looking for new improvements, new things that we can add to it to make the operation better for sure. And we go directly to Speedbird for that, and then they say, yeah, we can make that happen, or it's going to take some doing, things like that. So
Cool.
yeah,
Okay. So, last question. Before I ask more personal questions.
sure.
So, what would you able to share? Like, what brought you personally to Skyports, and what advice would you give to other people who might be interested in entering the sector?
Yeah, Skyports was really it was mainly the potential of it. One, to be able to say I'm doing drone deliveries across the Hudson River in downtown Manhattan to Brooklyn is pretty cool. So I definitely that was a huge selling point. And then the medical supplies was also a really big one for me. It was, it's using this technology that's going to help people. It's using this technology that's potentially going to save lives, which I think is, drones can kind of get a bad, like a bad taste in people's mouths because they always see it kind of being used in warfare or for military use or surveillance and things like that. Which, don't get me wrong, every technology is going to get abused that way, but to be able to be working for a company that's using this technology to help people is very inspiring, and that was kind of the big draw there. Also the potential. So again, they've been in the UK now for like 7 8 years. They're in Singapore. They're all over Europe. They're just, yeah, they're making waves. So for them to kind of break into the U.S. market, this just seemed like a good opportunity to kind of get in on the ground floor of that, and then, depending on how well we do, will depend on how big it could potentially get here in the U.S., which hopefully would be pretty big. So it's just got so much potential, and there's so many opportunities. And like I said, even if we move away after a year, we move away from this delivery stuff. There's still the infrastructure inspection side of things. There's the agriculture inspection side of things. There's just so many avenues that Skyports can and will take this technology, and that's very exciting to me. So that's definitely why I joined up for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Hmm.
Um, so now onto some of my personal questions.
Sure.
Okay. So what majors would you suggest for high schoolers to consider if they want to come into the commercial drone and UAV sector?
It's a great question. I think any kind of robotics class. I took a couple of those in high school and in college. I did an electrical engineering degree in college. I only have my associates, and then I went to school to actually become a pilot. So I got my commercial license with an instrument rating, and the school I went to had a UAV drone program,
Oh, wow.
which then I kind of, as I was flying the airplanes, I kept hearing about the drones and how it's kind of the future of aviation. So I kind of started looking into it. They had a club, so I joined the club. I started taking the classes. Found that it was something that I was really passionate about and enjoyed. And lo and behold, I actually made the switch over into that program altogether. So that's kind of where I got started with it. I actually hadn't touched a drone since I started at college. So my entire, middle school, high school life, I had never even looked at drones or RC airplanes or anything like that. So I think anything in the electrical engineering field or technology field, like I said, robotics is a great avenue for sure. And then, yeah, to your clubs are fantastic because usually they have the resources to have like a communal aircraft or fleet that they can utilize and things like that. And then to your point, at the end of the day, you just put enough thrust behind something, you'll make anything fly. So you can make foamies or anything like that, and still go out with your buddies and have a good time. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think anything in the aviation field will get you pretty close.
cool. So one last question for me, and I'll ask Tyrus if he has anything else. Um, do you think that this technology, this deliveries for commercial UAVs, do you think that there's potential for it to be downscaled up to like, 5 or 7 inch quads or something like that?
That's a great question. I think your guess is as good as mine. I would like to see that someday. I think that's definitely a potential. Again, this technology now is getting good enough where the FAA is taking it seriously, the communities are taking it seriously, and I think as we continue to make these strides with projects like this, with companies coming out saying yes, we can reliably do deliveries, and the technology continues to prove that it's safe. I mean, really, you could take this in any direction. Yeah, where essentially packages have four little motors on it that are flying straight to your front door, or it is a massive drone that's doing multiple deliveries in one flight. It could be, yeah, it could be several different avenues. It'll be exciting to see. And like I said, this is kind of getting in on the ground floor where you can kind of help those decisions get made for sure. So I think that's another exciting part. Again, potential. It's just there's so much potential with these platforms with what they can do. It's I don't think it's gonna be limited to one industry, and everybody's gonna be able to find a niche use for them, which I think will be very cool to see.
Right. Cool. Actually, I missed the question completely. I'm so sorry.
No, you're
Um,
good.
how does a physical package receiving and delivery system work?
That's another good question. One that we're still figuring out. So like I said, we're doing simulated packages currently. So we're actually just kind of flying back and forth with the same package. Our customers or our investors, they're going to be kind of responsible to figure out how they want the start end and the finish end to work. Like I said, we're focused on that middle mile. So our customer is going to be figuring out a way to show up with however many packages they need delivered that day. We're going to have some form of logging system, whether we scan a barcode or it's somebody just manually taking down information. We then fly it to its destination, and then they'll handle some form of retrieval, so pickup. And again, so like there's lots of moving parts to that, but at the end of the day, you're going to substitute a 45-minute drive across the Brooklyn Bridge for a 4-minute drone flight across the river, right? So you're still saving a ton of resources and money that way. But yeah, so we don't actually have that figured out yet. But as we start receiving packages from our customers, we'll be able to establish kind of that working workflow on how we receive packages versus how we hand them off to the customers.
Cool.
So, mhm.
I was actually asking that kind of because we're currently working on a project involving a really high powered quad.
Mm.
I have it's like right there. I should probably show you. It's a I'll always go right now. Matter of fact, yeah. Um,
Mm.
Well,
so
while he's away, I was gonna say,
well, yeah, Tyrus, you said your question
you know what?
first.
Wait, oh, there it is. So I don't know if you might know this, but do you think Skyports would be staying as like an independent company? Because as you see, it's like it's separated, or you think they would be partnering, like physically be like incorporating themselves inside hospitals? Like each hospital would have like their own their own Skyport system. Would you do you think that it might even evolve to that point where it'd be flying like they'd be flying directly from the hospital and they'd be having their own branch inside the hospital? Or do you
Absolutely.
think they
I
would
think
stay
it's
individual?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a possibility. I see it as more you would have drones stationed at specific hospitals with specific flight plans and potentially have one pilot. Like I said, if you had, as an example, you had 4 hospitals in the New York State area, you could have one pilot managing all of those aircraft. You'd have hub operators, which are the guys that are loading the batteries and doing the checks and things like that. You'd have one of them stationed at each site, but you could have one pilot that would be okay. I'm going to fly this package now, and then like, oh, there's one 500 miles over here. I'll just fly that one next, kind of a thing. So it's just remote based pilots, or region based pilots. But it's really gonna, it's yeah. Well, it'll be exciting to see if that is the case, or it may be something where yeah, you have a Skyports pilot that's on site, ready to go at all times. It comes down to the demand at that point. So
All right, all right.
Cool.
cool.
So we actually I'm considering now because this is a product we're currently working on. It's a 5-inch FPV.
You're
Oh,
gonna have
okay.
to turn
You
off
can
your
see.
back your
But
green screen, Peter. You're gonna have to turn off your green screen.
yeah. Oh crap! I don't know how to do that.
What?
Uh, wait 1 second. Oh, there we go. Got it. There we go. So we
Oh,
have a 5-inch
nice.
FPV, and we're wondering. Actually, I was wondering if I was considering this, but it's like I don't know if it's like it'd be too hard. But we're considering making it kind of like a test platform for a package delivery system, kind of like the
Mm,
DLV2. Because
yeah.
the thing is like with this, it's not stable. It's so unsafe. This one I think on 6S, which is what we're running on, it goes 225 kilometers an hour. Like if you full throttle it at like full send. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's just useful, right? Maybe you're like, no, you gotta rush some like some organ or something to somebody, and you gotta like zip across the river. I don't know. Where do you guys put the packages? I know this is like a really like specific question, but where are the packages stored? Like just inside the fuselage, or like are they hanging off the bottom? Or
Yeah, so
Um,
they're inside of a cargo box, which is hanging off the bottom of the aircraft, and it's connected via 4 pins that are just going through the cargo box into the frame of the aircraft.
Okay.
And so yeah, we put the package inside that cargo box. We then make sure it's secure using foam or tape or things like that, just so it doesn't shift, and center of gravity gets all wonky. And then we also just weigh it, make sure it's still within our weight. And then once we get to the location, it lands, it deposits the entire cargo box, and then takes off again.
oh,
And so then the recipient will then just open the cargo box, retrieve their package, and then our hub operator, our ground support guy, he hangs onto the cargo box to be able to be reused. So that's how we're currently doing it. There's talks about other forms, like I said, with these potential medical supplies and medical equipment. We're looking at different, more substantial cargo boxes with ventilation and sensors and things like that. Just again because it's got it's based on the cargo itself. Right now, with water bottles and documents, we can just throw it into one of those reusable cargo boxes, and it's pretty standard at that point.
All right,
okay.
so it's solid connection rather than like rope connection. Interesting. Um,
Yes.
interesting. So when you said 4 pins, so it's like are they automatically deconnecting or disconnecting pins, or are they like you have to go up to the drone and manually disconnect them before the drone can fly away?
It's either way, either or. So they are automatic. So it lands, it auto retracts them. They're just hooked up to servos. So it's just a servo
Mhm.
in there that's moving them in and out. And once it touches down and disarms the motors, it knows it's on the ground, so it disengages them. That being said, our HOs or our ground support guys will need to have access to it sometimes. So they have a physical button that they can press to either actuate or deactuate them to remove the cargo box. I also have an option on my station as well where I could detach the cargo box whenever I needed to. So that's an option as well.
Cool. Um, any more questions? If not, like that might be it. I don't think
Yeah,
any.
I think I've had all my questions answered. It was really, really nice of you. I feel like
Yeah.
all my questions might have been like really obvious for you. So I feel like I might have
No,
like
you're
wasted
good,
all
man.
your time. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, all
very
good. Well,
cool.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you guys. Like I said, I'm glad you reached out. I'm glad you swung by the other day. We'll if you guys think of any other questions that you want answered, feel free to. You got my email, you got my phone number now, so feel free to shoot me a text or an email, and we'll get them answered for you. And I know you guys want to come see a flight, so maybe we can organize that. Maybe sometime late July, mid August. I think might be a good
Cool.
time frame.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll
Yeah,
definitely
late July
stay in
would be fine
touch.
for me.
August, yeah,
Thank you.
August should work.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you for letting us take up so much of your time. Thank you.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
worries.
Thank you so much. Okay,
Yeah, guys.
yeah. Yeah, we really appreciate your support and meeting us. So welcoming. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Okay.
of course.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Peter,
See you
can you,
August or yeah. All right. Bye
Peter,
bye.
can you stay on with me after? I want to ask you a
Oh,
question about Stockleheads. Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
We'll
stay.
talk to you
All right.
later.
Bye
Have a
bye.
great day. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Peter.
Okay, what's up,
All right,
Towers?
Peter. So I
Wait,
don't
wait, wait.
know.
I recording. I stop recording.